This week, I crossed the finish line of my very first half marathon. I'm going to take you through how I felt during my race, fueling, recovery, and we're going to talk about what's next. There it is. There's my medal. My first ever running medal. I have a couple medals from other sports, but I've never ever had a running medal. So that's pretty cool. All right, so let's start off with how things went that morning. Woke up, had breakfast, everything went fine. We got to the metro, took the train out there to a part of the forest that I'd never been to before. It was right around the Hippodrome. Being that I'd never been there before, I was a baby bit nervous because I didn't really visually know where I was going. However, not a big problem. I found where I was supposed to be, found the toilets. And then the girls dropped me off and I just joined the other people. Now, what I wasn't expecting, because it wasn't well detailed, is it says 8 o'clock start time, but we didn't start until 8:32, 8:33. So all that like pent up stress and energy, I wasn't expecting it. And I just kept like doing some like warm up movements that I've done before and just making sure that I felt okay and good. I wasn't exerting myself. I was just trying to stay steady. I've left them and I'm waiting with my group. And it looks like I actually could be the next group to go. But I didn't go to the bathroom. So I hope that my bowels can stand the next 3 hours. I am going to say one thing quickly that because I'm trying to be as transparent as possible. One thing that I did not do well was I didn't hydrate enough the night before. So I was a little bit thirsty the next day, and I think that's maybe why my bowels weren't doing what I wanted them to do the next morning. So that's one thing even before the day started that I wish I would have changed. Anyways, so we move up closer to the start line. There's some trampoline thing that I guess is like a typical thing that they do. Cool. And then they count us down and we start the race. Something I kind of found funny is nobody ran until they got to the start line. I don't know why. In my head, I was probably like a couple hundred people back from my group, and because I definitely wasn't in the front. We'll get to that in a second. I don't know why. I just thought people would start running before the start line. I don't know. Nobody started running until they got on the start line. I mean, why waste the legs, right? So anyways, so let's break down the race, and I'm going to do it in quarters, 5K. So to be completely transparent, of the quarters of the race, the first quarter was absolutely the most difficult. Why is that? Very simply speaking, my ego took a massive hit because when we started the race, people pass you. That's totally normal. I wasn't expecting no one to pass me. But after like the first kilometer, I looked back and realized that the guy that carries the flag that says the last runner was directly behind me. And listen, I'm not here to say that I was looking for some kind of miracle or to be amazing and like kill it. It's just my ego took a hit. I'm going to be completely honest about the whole thing. So I gathered my thoughts and told myself to stop it because that's not why you're doing this race. And I didn't listen for the first probably like 5 minutes. And then I was like, okay, you have two choices here. You can either finish this race for you, regardless of anything, or you can beat yourself up, walk off the path, and go find your friends and go home. So I finished, so obviously I chose one of those two options. Then I decided, you know what, Emma, let's make the best of it. You're going to focus on just running and feeling good and losing sight of the guy with that flag. So that's actually what I did. I just kept my head down, and then as I was approaching the 5K mark, I realized that like I could not see the person behind me with the flag anymore. And so it was just about getting out of my own head and moving forward. And that's what I did. And for a lot of the race, I was alone because I was a part of the last few people to finish. And I'm okay with that. That is fine. This is my first time. But that meant that I wasn't exactly running with a big group of 50 people or even 10 or even 5. There was like sometimes one person next to me, in front of me, behind me, but like that's it. After getting over that pure panic, I hit the 5K mark. And it was around then that I saw Stephanie and Hannah for the first time, and they had a sign, and it was so fun, and they're the best cheerleaders and the best crew ever. And I got over that. And then I started to run through a part of the city that I'd never really spent much time in. So it was pretty cool to kind of just like focus on that, focus on the drawings on the road to say left, right, straight, whatever. Smiled at all the people who were blocking the roads. And then I had to focus on getting to the halfway point because the halfway point was a neighborhood that I'm very familiar with because I used to live there. And on top of that, I actually have run there many times. Also, Hannah and Stephanie, this was the only place that I told them I wanted them to be at, so I could refill my water bottle with electrolytes and also swap my headband. We'll get into that later. So as I approached the 10-kilometer mark, I ran into them. Manon was also with them, which was lovely. And to be honest, I was feeling pretty good. I was feeling good, and I was in a familiar place, and I knew the route back at this point to the stadium. So I was like, feeling good. I got this. I knew the next 5 were probably going to be the toughest for me, and they were. So once I hit that halfway point, just kept my head down, and I just kept focused on putting one foot in front of the other. And as I approached the 15K mark or just after I think, is when I saw Hannah, Stephanie, George, and Manon. It was awesome. 4 people cheering on for me. It was so sweet. It was right before an aid station. So the vibes were good. They're amazing. It was awesome. Everything I could have imagined to see, because at that moment is when I really realized that like, okay, you got this. Like just 6K to go. Absolutely, yes, you got this in the bag. So that was really nice and rewarding and just fantastic. And after I left them, it was pretty deserted. I just knew that I needed to keep focused on looking forward until I saw the stadium. And as I finally saw the stadium, I was able to cross over the bridge and head towards there. And that was probably where things got tough. Not because of like physical effort, it was definitely mental at this point. Because my body was getting tired and I was almost there. And then I finally got in front of the stadium. And then I finally got into the basement. And then we're running down this really long and dark path. And I'm just like, where's the entrance to the stadium? And I knew I was in the right place because there were marathoners finishing at the same time. The 10K finishers were coming in behind. I knew I was in the right spot. I must say that last kilometer felt like 1.5 kilometers or 2. But then I turn a corner, I enter smoke and lasers, which I wasn't expecting at all. That was hilarious. And I hit what was probably the hardest 300 of the entire race because the last couple hundred meters was on the Olympic track. And I was excited for that until I realized that the texture was a little gummy. And when I had very tired, slow legs, I really had to focus on not falling. The whole last couple hundred meters, I was like, just go straight, don't focus. Like, don't fall, don't fall, don't fall, don't fall. Oh my God, it's done. Now, when I finished, the time up on the clock said 30 something minutes because the 10K finishers were coming in and they were doing it real quick. It was also first place, so, But I stopped my Strava and I was at 3:01 and some, but my official time is 3:03:00. And I'm so happy with that. I'm so happy with how that went over. And I could not be happier to say that I finished in the time that I did because I finished. And that's what I set out to do. I did start to panic at the end of last week about wanting to go under 3 hours because I was scared my time wouldn't count. But it didn't, even though it was over 3 hours. So I guess they let a few people in. And I kind of see it. I remember when I picked up my bib, it says 2330. And I kind of thought, oh, that's got to be a good thing, like a double 3. And it was. Because in the end, my time was 3:03:00. So the double 3 worked. And I'm really happy with that. I did track my entire race on Strava. The only reason I did the Strava was just because I did want some kind of data at the end of it. I was curious. And then also, in case my time didn't count, I wanted at least to have some kind of record of my race for myself. Let's quickly recap on the tech. So the tech side of things, I had my phone in my pocket using the Strava app to track me. Great. It worked out well. It did say, I'll put it up here, but it did say like 22 and a half kilometers, I think. But that also, I believe, has to do with the fact that like I wasn't necessarily running in a direct straight line or necessarily the exact line on the roads that they mapped out. My watch, I did not want to have Strava or Runna or anything going on my watch because I just didn't want to be looking down and constantly being obsessed with that. I don't think that would be healthy at all. My watch served two purposes. To check my heart rate periodically. I was constantly between like 155 and 170. And the second thing is I actually used it to set timers every 40 minutes to take my gels. So that worked out really well. I would highly recommend doing that actually, because then you're not constantly looking at the time. My watch would just vibrate. I'd take a gel. I'd move on. That's a perfect segue into the next topic I wanted to bring up, which was my fueling and nutrition. I feel was pretty on point. In terms of eating before, I definitely went up on the carbs. I had pasta the night before, very plain, very simple. And then the morning of the race, I had three pieces of toast, I believe. 3 pieces of toast with protein, peanut butter, and an espresso. Pretty standard breakfast in my books, honestly. And that's what I had planned, and that's what I had tested previously. I had a banana about an hour before the race just to put some extra carbs in my body. And in terms of hydration, I used Precision 1500, which I actually have kicking around here. Precision 1500, which they have 3 different levels, and this is for the extra sweaty people like myself. Use that, and I had Stephanie fill it up halfway through for me and just fill it up with water, pop it in, and I was good to go again. And that worked well for me. But I also think that's because I tested it. It's not going to work the same for everybody. I'm very much aware of that. But it worked for me. And it worked for me because I had tested it out probably once a week for the last 2 months. So if anybody's looking for any advice on that, just test it out. Use your Sundays as test day. That's what I did, and it worked out pretty well. Next, I just want to talk about my outfit. I'm not the type of person that really cares necessarily about what I'm wearing, what I look like when I'm running, but I just wore what I usually would wear on a Sunday run because this was going to be longer than a Sunday run, so I definitely wanted to be comfortable. So I wore my favorite shorts with what recently has become my new favorite top to wear when it's colder out, and that worked out great. I did have sunglasses on, which I took off halfway through because it was getting foggy and weird, and I just wanted to take them off, so my wife took them from me. Thank you. The thing I did have is I had headbands that I actually wore halfway, and then I had planned for my wife to give me a new one because, like I said, I told you guys, I'm a sweaty person, and I prepared for that, and I just wanted to be as comfortable as possible during the race because I'd never done this before, and I did put comfort first. I wore the same sneakers that I've been running in for the last couple months. I wore my favorite socks to run in. I didn't choose anything other than things that I'm comfortable in and that I've trained in before, and it worked out great. If you want the full details though, I definitely have the video from last week that goes over exactly everything, and if you're interested, I'll drop the link below. By the way, if you have made it this far in the video, I want you to comment a drink emoji, your favorite drink, whatever you want, because I'm curious to see who's made it far in the video. And if you have, also feel free to subscribe. It's totally free, and you just have to click the button down there. Side note, I did not think through my hair at all. There's a part of me, I wish I was really good at French braids because I totally think I would have put like 2 French braids, but I didn't think about it at all until I literally was on the start line and I was like, I don't think I have changed because I had my hair half up in a pony. I was like, I don't even think I adjusted it since I woke up at 5 a.m. So anyways, in terms of my recovery after, very simple. I haven't done much this week. I'm filming this about 48 plus hours after the race, and I'm starting to feel a little bit better, a little bit more mobile, but I did not go to work on Monday because I could not walk down the stairs well at all. I could not walk down the stairs at all, actually. I definitely needed, I didn't trust myself, let's say, to walk down the stairs by myself unless I was leaning heavily on something. I would say that recovery has just been moving as much as I can to get my muscles moving again, but stretching what feels sore, using ice on my feet. My tendonitis flared up like crazy, so I used some ice on that, and that worked out well. And I will say that I've had this low-level nausea since Sunday. It's just been constantly there to the point where like I'm not even craving any foods because I just have this like at a 2 or 3 level nausea in my stomach. It's absolutely crazy. All right, so before we wrap up today, this bears the question of what's next and what does that look like and what am I going to be doing? Well, if you've been following along, you would know that when I was in Nice watching the Ironman World Championships, I signed up for my second half marathon with my best friend this time. So Stephanie will be there with me and she does 70.3 Ironman, so like girl's constantly running. But she's gonna do this with me and we're gonna train for it. She's gonna come in from Zurich to do it and I'm so excited. Also, I'm gonna really think and reflect over the next week or two as to what a feasible goal is for me. Like what kind of goal do I want to set for that? I definitely want to go faster and I'm not gonna hide that. I'm not gonna pretend that I don't, but I really want to figure out exactly what that means and what time goal that looks like, what pace goal that looks like, and work on that over the next 4.5 months. So I'm going to spend the next week figuring that out. I do also want to start diversifying my training a little bit because I have triathlon in the back of my brain. I have not signed up for a 70.3. This confirmed to me that I think I can handle it with a lot more training and a lot more months of training under my belt. We're talking about 12 months more worth of training before I could imagine doing something like that. But I'm definitely toying with the idea of an Olympic distance or a 5150. I'm going to leave it there. I'll catch you next week.